I still remember the exact moment my phone rang that Sunday afternoon. It was my mother, her voice dripping with entitlement. "Jody, we've decided Logan and his family need your new house more than you do. They'll be moving in next weekend." I stood frozen in my kitchen, the home I'd sacrificed everything to buy just 3 weeks earlier. Before I could form a response, she continued, "We're stopping by with some boxes. Logan has a family to support, after all." The doorbell rang and there they stood. My parents, brother Logan, his wife Amy, and their son, all smiling expectantly, as if I'd simply hand over the keys to my dream. That was the moment I realized I'd spent 32 years being the family doormat. No more. I've always been the responsible one. While my younger brother Logan was being celebrated for every minor achievement, I was working overtime and saving every penny. That's just how it's been since we were kids. Logan got the praise, the attention, the support. I got the expectations and disappointments. For 6 long years, I lived in a cramped one-bedroom apartment with walls thin enough to hear my neighbors arguing about whose turn it was to buy toilet paper. The carpet was stained in places I couldn't identify, and the bathroom faucet dripped no matter how many times maintenance fixed it. But I endured it all because I had a plan. Every month, I would transfer a portion of my paycheck as a hospital administrator into my house fund. No vacations, no new clothes unless absolutely necessary, and definitely no takeout coffee. My colleagues called me obsessive, but they all had parents who helped with down payments or co-signed loans. I had only myself. When I finally had enough saved for a decent down payment, I spent months looking for the perfect place. Something modest, but mine. The real estate market in our area is brutal, but I finally found it. A charming 2-bedroom house with a small yard and enough character to feel like home without breaking my budget. The closing process was nerve-wracking, but when I finally got those keys in my hand, I cried right there in the realtor's office. I didn't tell my family right away. I wanted to enjoy this achievement by myself before it got overshadowed by whatever Logan was doing. I spent those first few weeks painting walls, arranging furniture I'd carefully selected from secondhand stores and budget retailers, and planning my budget down to the penny to make sure I could handle the mortgage payments comfortably. Then, on a Tuesday evening as I was planting herbs in my kitchen windowsill, my phone rang. It was my mother, her voice unusually excited. "Jody, why didn't you tell us you bought a house? Carol from church ran into your coworker and she mentioned it. I can't believe you wouldn't share such big news with your family." I felt my stomach drop. "I was going to tell you, Mom. I just wanted to get settled first." "Well, it's perfect timing, actually," she continued, not acknowledging my explanation at all. "Logan and Amy just found out they're expecting again. Your house sounds perfect for them." I nearly dropped my phone. "What? Mom, I just bought this house. For me. Don't be selfish, Jody. Logan has a growing family. You're just one person. What do you need all that space for?" "It's only 2 bedrooms, Mom. It's not exactly a mansion. Still, it's more than you need. And you know Logan's been struggling since the promotion fell through. Amy might have to cut back her hours with another baby coming. They need the stability of a house instead of that apartment they're in." I tried to find words, any words, to respond, but she continued before I could. "Well, I'll come over this weekend to see the place. I'm sure it will give Logan's family a fresh start. I'll bring some lunch. See you Saturday at 11. She hung up before I could object. I stood there, dirt still under my fingernails from planting my herbs, feeling like the ground had shifted beneath my feet. The achievement I'd worked so hard for was being reframed as an opportunity for Logan. Again, I texted my friend Taylor immediately. "You won't believe what just happened." Her response was quick. "Your mom found out about the house. Worse, she's already planning to give it to Logan." "Hello. I'm delighted to assist you with our voice services. Choose a voice that resonates with you. And let's begin our creative audio journey together." By morning, I was a mess of conflicting emotions, but one thing was clear. Saturday was coming, and with it, a confrontation I couldn't avoid. The days leading up to Saturday felt like watching an approaching storm. I cleaned obsessively, not because I wanted to impress my family, but because it gave me something to do with the nervous energy coursing through me. I practiced what I would say, rehearsing firm but polite responses in the mirror. "I'm sorry, but this is my home. I understand your concern for Logan, but I worked hard for this." Simple statements that shouldn't have been difficult to say, yet I knew they would be. 32 years of conditioning doesn't disappear overnight. Saturday arrived with cruel sunshine, as if the universe was mocking my inner turmoil. At precisely 11 o'clock, the doorbell rang. I took a deep breath and opened the door to find my entire family standing there. My parents front and center, with Logan, his wife Amy, and their 4-year-old son Tyler slightly behind them. "There she is," my father boomed, stepping forward to give me a brief hug. "Let's see this house of yours." The possessive yours gave me a moment of hope that was quickly dashed. "It's cute from the outside," my mother said, already pushing past me into the entryway. "Smaller than I expected, but with some renovations it could work nicely for you all, Logan." I stood there, door still in hand, as they filed in. Logan at least had the decency to look uncomfortable, giving me an apologetic half-smile as he passed. Amy was already pointing out features to Tyler, who was more interested in running through the new place. "The kitchen's through here." "Hello, I'm delighted to assist you with our voice services. Choose a voice that resonates with you, and let's begin our creative audio journey together." The casual cruelty of her dismissal stunned me into silence. "Now," she continued, pulling her phone out, "I think the dining area would be better opened up to the kitchen. Amy, take some pictures so we can plan the renovations." Amy, who had been quiet until now, began obediently taking photos while avoiding eye contact with me. Tyler ran through the rooms, already claiming spaces as his own. "This is my room," he shouted from the second bedroom. "I can see the neighbor's dog from here." My father put his hand on my shoulder. "Let's talk in the kitchen." I followed him, feeling increasingly like a guest in my own home. In the kitchen, he pulled out a folder from his jacket and placed it on the counter. "We've done some research," he said, opening the folder to reveal several printed documents. "There are a few ways we can handle this. The simplest would be for you to gift the house to Logan." I stared at the papers, unable to process what I was seeing. They were actual legal documents, already partially filled out. "Gift it," I repeated, the words feeling foreign in my mouth. "Yes, there are some tax benefits this way, which our accountant can explain. Or you could sell it to him below market value, but that gets complicated with the mortgage." "Dad, I'm not giving Logan my house," I said, finding a firmer voice. "I just bought it. I have a 30-year mortgage." "Which we would help transfer to him, of course," he said, as if that resolved everything. "That's not the point. The point is that this is my house. Mine. I worked for it, I saved for it, I found it, and I bought it." My raised voice drew the others into the kitchen. My mother looked annoyed, while Logan at least had the grace to appear embarrassed. "Everything okay in here?" my mother asked, though her tone made it clear she didn't think anything should be wrong. "Jodis being difficult about the transfer," my father explained. "I'm not being difficult." The frustration of years began to bubble up. "I'm saying no, this is my house. You've always been so selfish." My mother sighed. "Logan has a family to support. Their landlord just raised the rent again, and with another baby coming, they need stability. So help them find their own house," I suggested, trying to keep my voice steady. "Help with their down payment like you helped with Logan's college." "We don't have that kind of money right now," my father said. "The market's too expensive. Yet you expect me to just hand over hundreds of thousands of dollars in property and start over." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. An uncomfortable silence fell over the kitchen. Tyler ran in, breaking the tension momentarily with his childish excitement. "Can I have a dog when we live here, Dad?" he asked Logan. Before Logan could respond, my mother answered, "Of course you can, sweetheart. There's a perfect yard for a dog." I felt something snap inside me. "There will be no dog because you're not living here." "This is my house." My mother's face hardened. "Jody, that's enough. We're family, and family supports each other. We've already told Logan's landlord they won't be renewing their lease." The words hit me like a physical blow. "You what?" Logan finally spoke up. "Mom, I told you we shouldn't do that until we talked to Jody." "There's nothing to talk about," she replied firmly. "Jody will do the right thing. She always does." And there it was, the expectation that had defined my entire life. Jody will accommodate. Jody will sacrifice. Jody will step aside so Logan can shine. "Let's all sit down for lunch," my mother suggested, producing containers from a large bag shed brought. "We can discuss the moving timeline while we eat." Numbly, I watched as they took over my dining area, setting out food and discussing my house as if the decision had already been made. I sat through the meal, barely touching my food, as they planned the logistics of taking over my home. Logan's lease was up in 3 weeks. They'd need to paint before moving in. The second bathroom should be renovated before the new baby arrived. When I tried again to object, my father cut me off. Jody, we understand you're disappointed. But you're one person. Logan is supporting 3, soon to be 4. The math is simple. We raised you to put family first, my mother added. This isn't just about you. By the end of the meal, I was emotionally exhausted. To end the conversation, I finally said, I need to think about this. My mother beamed, interpreting this as acquiescence. I knew you'd come around. You always do the right thing, Jody. They left soon after, my mother promising to call with contractor recommendations for the renovations Logan will need. As I closed the door behind them, the weight of what had just happened crashed down on me. I sank to the floor of my entryway and finally let the tears come. Through blurred vision, I looked around at my home. The paint colors I'd carefully selected, the secondhand furniture I'd lovingly restored, the small touches that made it mine. All of it was about to be taken away, just like everything else I'd ever wanted that Logan decided he needed instead. I pulled out my phone and texted Taylor. They want me to give Logan my house. They've already told his landlord he's moving out. They brought paperwork. Her response was immediate. I'm coming over. With wine. Taylor arrived 40 minutes later with not 1 but 2 bottles of wine and a fierce protective energy that made me grateful all over again for her friendship. Tell me everything, she demanded, pouring generous glasses as we sat at my kitchen counter. I recounted the entire ambush in detail. The measuring, the renovation plans, the casual way they'd discussed my leaving as if it were already decided. And they already told his landlord? Without even talking to you first. Taylor was incredulous. Apparently Logan objected to that part, but my parents overruled him. I said, taking a long sip of wine. At least he has some sense of boundaries, Taylor muttered. Though not enough to actually stand up for you. He never does. I agreed. He accepts whatever advantage they give him while looking vaguely uncomfortable about it. And what exactly are you supposed to do? Just find another apartment and start over after you finally bought your dream home. I shrugged helplessly. According to my mother, that's exactly what I should do because I'm just one person without real responsibilities. Taylor's eyes flashed with anger. That's such bullshit, Jody. You have every right to the life you've built. This house represents years of hard work and sacrifice. I know, but… No buts, she interrupted firmly. This is a pattern that's been going on your entire life. When are you going to stop letting them dictate your choices? Her words stung, mostly because they were true. My entire life had been shaped around accommodating Logan's needs and wants. When we were kids, he got new sports equipment while I wore hand-me-downs. In high school, my parents attended every one of his games but missed my honor society induction because it conflicted with his tournament. Even in adulthood, family resources and attention flowed toward Logan while I was expected to fend for myself. What am I supposed to do? I asked, feeling genuinely lost. They've already told his landlord. They'll be homeless if I don't give in. That's not your problem, Taylor insisted. They created this situation, not you. And there are always other rentals. But the baby is also not your responsibility. Listen to yourself, Jody. You're already making excuses for why you should give up everything you've worked for. I fell silent, knowing she was right. What would you do? I finally asked. Honestly, Taylor took a thoughtful sip of wine. Honestly? I'd tell them all to go to hell. I laughed despite myself. That's why I love you. But I don't think I can do that. Then what about a compromise? Offer to help them find another place. Maybe contribute a little to their down payment if you can afford it. I considered it. They'd still expect me to give up this house. They've decided it's perfect for Logan, and once my parents decide something, that's it. We sat in silence for a few moments, both of us thinking. What if… Taylor began slowly. What if you didn't have this house anymore? What do you mean? Sell it after I just bought it? Not exactly. What if you had somewhere else to live? Somewhere they couldn't take from you? The idea hung between us, intriguing but vague. I can't afford another property, I pointed out. I put everything into this place. Maybe not a traditional house, Taylor suggested, her expression thoughtful. Have you ever considered something smaller? Something alternative. Like what? A tiny home, I joked. Taylor's eyes lit up. Actually, yes. Remember that development we drove past last month? The one with all the tiny houses? I did remember. Wed commented on how cute they were, though neither of us had seriously considered living in one. That's crazy, I said, but I could hear the lack of conviction in my voice. Is it? Think about it. Your family wants this house because it works for them, but what if you had a place that absolutely wouldn't work for them? The more I considered it, the more I felt a spark of something I hadn't felt in a long time. Rebellion. It's still crazy, I repeated, but I was already reaching for my laptop. The next morning, despite a mild wine headache, I called the number I'd found online for Pinewood Tiny Home Community. To my surprise, they had immediate availability, a model home that the previous buyers had backed out on at the last minute. I'd like to see it today if possible, I told the agent. 3 hours later, I was standing in front of the most charming little structure I'd ever seen. At 400 square feet, it was a fraction of the size of my current house, but something about it called to me. The agent, a cheerful woman named Diane, showed me around with obvious pride. We build these with maximum efficiency in mind, she explained, demonstrating how the dining table folded into the wall and the stairs to the sleeping loft doubled as storage. Every inch serves a purpose. The home had a small kitchen with high-end compact appliances, a bathroom with a surprisingly spacious shower, a comfortable living area, and the sleeping loft above. Outside was a small deck and a patch of yard shared with the community. What's the timeline like? I asked, trying to sound casual. If someone were interested, we could close in 2 weeks since this unit is already built and ready. The previous buyer's financing fell through, so we're motivated to sell quickly. 2 weeks. Logan's lease was up in 3. The timing was almost too perfect. I'll take it, I heard myself say. Diane looked surprised. Don't you want to think about it? This is a big decision. I've done enough thinking, I replied, feeling more certain by the second. How much down payment do you need? The numbers worked out, barely. I would need to use my emergency fund for the down payment, and I'd have to find a renter for my house quickly to cover that mortgage while I paid for the tiny home. But it was doable. More importantly, it was mine, something my family couldn't possibly claim was better suited for Logan. I signed the preliminary paperwork that afternoon, swearing Diane to secrecy when I explained I wanted to surprise my family. She seemed charmed by the idea, not realizing the surprise was more of a rebellion. As I drove home, my phone buzzed with a text from my mother. Talked to a contractor friend about renovating the master bath for Logan and Amy. He can start next month. Let's talk about when you can move your things out. The presumption still stung, but for the first time, I felt a sense of power. They had no idea what I was planning. Over the next 2 weeks, I lived a double life. To my family, I was the same accommodating Jody, responding vaguely to their increasingly detailed plans for Logan's house. Meanwhile, I was working with a real estate agent to find a tenant for my house, signing closing documents on the tiny home, and secretly moving my most treasured possessions into storage. Taylor helped me pack in the evenings, turning it into an act of liberation rather than loss. Each box is a middle finger to your parents' expectations, she declared as we carefully wrapped my grandmother's china, that my mother had always said should go to Logan when he had a proper house. The tiny home community required less in the way of furnishings, which was fortunate since I couldn't move anything large without raising suspicions. I ordered a few custom pieces designed for small spaces and arranged for them to be delivered after my reveal. 10 days after my first visit to Pinewood, I got the keys to my tiny home. That night, I slept there for the first time, surrounded by boxes but filled with a sense of peace I hadn't felt in years. The space was small but entirely mine, free from my family's expectations and demands. The next morning, I received a text from Logan. Mom and Dad found a moving company. They're planning to come this Saturday to help me start moving in. Is that okay? I took a deep breath and replied, I'll be ready on Saturday. Logan's response came quickly. Thanks, Jody. I know this isn't ideal. We can talk more when I see you. Talk? After 32 years of him benefiting from our parents' favoritism while doing nothing to stop it? I didn't respond. As Saturday approached, I finalized my plan. The tenant for my house would move in the following week, a young nurse and her husband who loved the place and were happy to sign a 2-year lease. It moved enough essentials to my tiny home to live comfortably, with the rest in a storage unit Taylor had helped me rent. By Friday night, there was no turning back. I sent Taylor a text. "It's happening tomorrow. Wish me luck." Her response made me smile. "You don't need luck. You've got this. It'll be there at 10 a.m. sharp as backup." For the first time in my life, I wasn't going to accommodate. I wasn't going to sacrifice. I wasn't going to step aside. Saturday morning dawned bright and clear. Another mockingly beautiful day for what I knew would be an explosive confrontation. I'd barely slept, rehearsing what I would say and imagining every possible reaction from my family. None of the scenarios in my head ended well, but I was past the point of turning back. I got ready in my tiny home, choosing an outfit that made me feel confident. Dark jeans, a crisp blue button-down shirt, and the leather boots I'd treated myself to when I got my last promotion. Small armor for a big battle. At 9:30, I drove to my house. The house I'd owned for barely a month before my family tried to claim it. Taylor was already waiting outside, leaning against her car with 2 coffee cups in hand. "Reinforcements," she said, handing me one. "Figured you could use the caffeine." "Thanks," I replied, taking a grateful sip. "For everything, not just the coffee." "Hey, I'm just here for the show," she joked, but her eyes were serious. "You're doing the right thing, Jody. Remember that no matter what they say." We went inside, and I took a final walk through the house that should have been my new beginning. It was mostly empty now, with just enough furniture left to make it appear normal if my family didn't look too closely at the missing details. "Are you sad?" Taylor asked, watching me run my hand along the kitchen counter. Strangely, no, I realized. This house represented freedom from my family's expectations. Now the tiny home does that even better. At exactly 10:30, a large moving truck pulled up outside, followed by my parents' SUV and Logan's sedan. I took a deep breath. "Showtime," Taylor murmured. I opened the front door before they could ring the bell. My father was already directing the 2 movers head hired, pointing toward the house. "Dad," I called out. "I need to show you all something before you start unloading." He turned, looking annoyed at the interruption to his carefully orchestrated plan. My mother was helping Amy get Tyler out of his car seat, while Logan was checking something on his phone. "Can it wait, Jody? We've got a schedule to keep. The movers charge by the hour." "No, it can't wait," I said firmly. "In fact, it's better if the movers wait here while I show you something. It won't take long." My tone must have conveyed my seriousness because my father actually stopped and signaled to the movers to hold off. "What's this about?" my mother asked, approaching with Amy and Tyler in tow. "We brought lunch for everyone to have once the first load is in." "I need to show you all something first," I repeated. "It's important." Logan finally looked up from his phone, his expression curious. "Everything okay, Jody? Let's go for a quick drive," I suggested, ignoring his question. "It's just 10 minutes away. This is ridiculous," my father protested. "We're paying these movers by the hour. Then they can start loading Logan's essentials back into his apartment." Taylor spoke up, her voice sweet but firm. "Because he's not moving here today." My father looked at Taylor as if noticing her for the first time. "This doesn't concern you." "Actually, it does," I interjected. "Taylor's my friend, and she's here to support me. Now, are you coming to see what I need to show you? Or should I just tell the movers to leave?" A tense silence fell over the group. Finally, my mother spoke. "Fine, let's see whatever this is so we can get back to moving. Tyler, stay with Grandpa while Grandma goes with Aunt Jody." "I want to come too," Tyler protested. "Well, I'll go," Logan decided, clearly sensing the tension. "Dad can tell the movers to take a break." After some grumbling and negotiation, we all piled into vehicles. My parents and Amy with me, Logan and Tyler following in their car, and Taylor bringing up the rear. The drive to Pinewood Tiny Home Community was silent and tense, my mother attempting several times to ask where we were going only to be met with my, "You'll see soon enough." When I turned into the entrance of the community, my mother's confusion was palpable. "What is this place? Why are we here?" I didn't answer as I navigated the winding road through the development of charming tiny homes, each unique but all similarly small. I parked in front of my new home, its fresh blue paint and white trim looking particularly cheerful in the morning sun. Everyone got out of their vehicles. looking around with bewilderment. Tyler was the only one who seemed delighted, pointing at the tiny houses with excitement. I walked up to my tiny home, unlocked the door, and turned to face my family. "This is where I live now," I announced simply. For a moment, no one spoke. My mother looked from me to the tiny house and back again, her expression shifting from confusion to disbelief. "What are you talking about?" she finally asked. "I bought this tiny home 2 weeks ago," I explained, my voice steady despite my racing heart. "I moved most of my things here or into storage. I've arranged for tenants to rent my house starting next week." "You're joking," my father said flatly. "This is some kind of prank." "It's not a joke," I replied, pushing the door open wider so they could see the boxes and new furniture inside. "This is my home now." My mother stepped forward, peering inside with growing horror. This is barely bigger than a storage shed. You can't live here." "Actually, I can and I am," I said. "It's 400 square feet of perfectly designed living space. Everything I need and nothing I don't." Logan had remained silent until now, but his expression had changed from confusion to something like respect. "You bought this rather than give up your house." "I bought this because I wanted to," I corrected him. "The house will generate rental income while I live here." My father pushed past me to look inside, his face reddening as he took in the compact space. He turned back to me, his expression thunderous. "How the hell are we supposed to fit in this?" he exploded, gesturing wildly at the tiny structure. "You're not," I replied calmly. "That's the point. This is my home. Just mine." "But what about Logan?" my mother demanded. "What about the baby? Where are they supposed to live now?" "The same place they've been living, I suppose," I said with a shrug. "Or they can find another house that works for them, one that isn't mine." "Their lease is up in a week," my mother cried. "The landlord has already found new tenants." "That's unfortunate," I acknowledged, "but it's not my problem. I never agreed to give Logan my house. You all just decided that's what would happen without even asking me." "We didn't think we had to ask," my father shouted. "Your family. Family takes care of each other." "Exactly," I agreed. "Family takes care of each other. Family doesn't demand someone give up their home. Family doesn't dismiss someone's hard work and achievements. Family doesn't play favorites for 32 years and expect the unfavored child to keep sacrificing everything." My words hung in the air like a physical presence. My mother's face had gone pale, while my father looked as if he might explode again. Amy was holding Tyler's hand tightly, looking deeply uncomfortable. Logan was staring at me with an unreadable expression. "You're being childish and selfish," my mother finally said, her voice cold. "I raised you better than this." "No," I corrected her. "You raised me to believe my needs didn't matter as much as Logan's. You raised me to always give in, always step aside, always be the responsible one while he got the support and praise. Not anymore." "So you're punishing your brother because you're jealous?" my father demanded. "Real mature, Jody." "Am not punishing anyone," I insisted. "Am making a choice for myself for once. Logan's housing situation is Logan's problem, and yours apparently since you took it upon yourselves to end his lease arrangement." Amy finally spoke up, her voice quiet but firm. "We told them not to do that, Jody. Logan said we needed to talk to you first." I looked at my brother, surprised. He nodded slightly, confirming Amy's words. "Well, it doesn't matter now," my mother declared. "What matters is that you've left your brother's family potentially homeless out of spite. There are other rentals," Taylor pointed out from where she'd been quietly observing. "Other houses for sale too." "Stay out of this," my father snapped at her. "Don't speak to my friend that way." I shot back. "She's right. There are other options. You all just decided mine was the most convenient one to take." "I can't believe you're doing this," my mother said, tears forming in her eyes. Tears I recognized as the manipulative kind she'd used my entire life when not getting her way. "After everything we've done for you," I couldn't help the bitter laugh that escaped me. "What exactly have you done for me?" "Logan got college paid for. I worked and took out loans. Logan got a car for his 16th birthday. I saved for 3 years to buy a used one. Logan's achievements were celebrated. Mine were expected. So please tell me what you've done for me that entitles you to my house." The silence that followed was deafening. "We're your parents," my father finally said, as if that answered everything. Yes, you are, I agreed. And I'll always be your daughter. But that doesn't mean you get to take my house. My mother turned away, her expression a mask of hurt and anger. I don't even know who you are anymore. I'm the same person I've always been, I told her. I'm just finally standing up for myself. Come on, my father said to my mother, taking her arm. We're leaving. If Jody wants to throw away her family over a house, that's her choice. I'm not throwing away anything. I called after them as they stormed toward their car. I'm just not giving away everything anymore. They didn't respond, getting into their SUV and starting the engine. My mother didn't look back as they drove away. Logan, Amy, and Tyler remained standing awkwardly by their car. I'm sorry, Logan said after a moment. I didn't know they told our landlord we were moving out without talking to you first. Would it have made a difference? I asked him directly. If they had asked me properly, would you have refused the house if I'd said no? He didn't answer immediately, which was answer enough. That's what I thought, I said quietly. Well, figure something out, Amy assured me, though her expression was worried. Don't worry about us. I'm not, I replied honestly. For once in my life, I'm thinking about me first. They left soon after, Tyler waving cheerfully from the back window, blissfully unaware of the family fracture he'd just witnessed. As their car disappeared down the road, I let out a long, shaky breath. Taylor put her arm around my shoulders. You okay? I considered the question carefully. My parents were furious with me. My relationship with them might never recover. It caused problems for Logan's family, even if it wasn't my responsibility to solve them. But for the first time in my adult life, I'd stood firm in my own worth. I'd refused to be the family sacrifice. Yeah, I said finally. I'm okay. Better than okay, actually. Taylor squeezed my shoulders. Welcome home, then. I looked at my tiny blue house. So small compared to the one I'd bought and nearly lost, but somehow containing so much more freedom. Home, I repeated, and I knew it was true. The following weeks passed in a strange mixture of peace and turmoil. My tiny home quickly became a sanctuary, a space that was entirely mine in a way no place had ever been before. I adapted to the smaller living area more easily than I expected, finding satisfaction in the minimalist lifestyle it required. The tenant family moved into my house as planned. Sarah, the nurse, her husband Mark, and their toddler daughter seemed genuinely thrilled with the place, and knowing they appreciated it eased any lingering regrets I might have had. Meanwhile, the silence from my family was deafening. My parents hadn't contacted me since the confrontation, and I vacillated between relief and a lifetime of conditioned guilt. Had I been too harsh? Too selfish? The old programming ran deep. You did the right thing, Taylor assured me during one of our regular wine nights, now hosted in my compact but cozy living area. They're the ones who tried to take your house. They're the ones giving you the silent treatment like children. I know. I sighed, curling up on my custom-built window seat that doubled as storage. But 32 years of being the family pleaser doesn't disappear overnight. Work became a welcome distraction. My role as hospital administrator kept me busy, and I threw myself into new projects with an energy my colleagues noticed. Whatever you're doing differently, keep it up. My boss commented during a staff meeting after I'd successfully negotiated a tricky contract with a medical supply vendor. You're on fire lately. What I was doing differently was setting boundaries, not just with my family but in all areas of my life. No more volunteering for every committee. No more taking on colleagues' work without recognition. No more saying yes when I meant no. The tiny home community also proved to be an unexpected source of support. My neighbors were diverse in age and background, but united by their choice to live more simply. Weekend barbecues in the shared courtyard and a community garden project gave me a sense of belonging I hadn't realized I was missing. Your home is so thoughtfully designed, commented Elaine, a retired teacher 3 tiny homes down, during a community dinner. You've made such good use of vertical space. I beamed at the compliment, proud of how it arranged my limited square footage. Every item in my home now had purpose and meaning. No room for excess when space was at a premium. 3 weeks after the confrontation, I received an unexpected text from Logan. Can we talk? Just the two of us. I hesitated before responding. Part of me wanted to ignore him, to let him experience some of the exclusion I'd felt my entire life. But another part recognized this might be an opportunity for honest conversation long overdue. When and where? I texted back. We arranged to meet at a coffee shop halfway between our locations the following Saturday. I arrived early, choosing a table in the corner that offered some privacy. Logan walked in 5 minutes late, looking tired and stressed in a way I hadn't noticed before. "Thanks for meeting me," he said, sliding into the seat across from me after ordering a black coffee. "What did you want to talk about?" I asked, not unkindly but not offering an easy opening either. He wrapped his hands around his coffee mug, staring into it as if it might provide the right words. "First, I want to apologize. What Mom and Dad tried to do with your house. It wasn't right. I hadn't expected that. Thank you for acknowledging that. We found another place," he continued. "A 3-bedroom apartment not far from where we were before. The rent's higher, but it's doable." "I'm glad," I said sincerely. "Mom and Dad are still pretty upset," he ventured after a pause. I gathered as much from their silence. "They don't understand what they did wrong," Logan admitted. "They really don't see it." I sighed. "Are you defending them?" "No," he said quickly. "Actually, the opposite. This whole situation made me realize how messed up our family dynamic has always been." I waited, unsure where he was going with this. "I've always known they favored me," he continued, his voice low. "I told myself it wasn't that bad, or that you were stronger and didn't need as much support, but seeing how they just expected you to give up your house." He shook his head. It was like a slap in the face, seeing it so clearly. "Yet you were willing to take the house," I pointed out. He had the grace to look ashamed. "I know. And that's on me. I've been enabling their favoritism my whole life, taking the advantages, staying quiet when they dismissed you, accepting their help while watching you struggle." His honesty surprised me. Why the sudden insight? "It wasn't sudden," he admitted. "I've felt uncomfortable about it for years, but it was easier to go along with it than to challenge them. And," he paused, looking me directly in the eyes for the first time, "I've always envied you." "Envied me?" I couldn't hide my disbelief. "For what? Your independence, your strength. The fact that everything you have, you earned yourself. I'm 30 years old, and I've never done anything without Mom and Dad's help or approval. Even my job came through Dad's connections." I sat back, processing his words. Never in a million years had I imagined Logan envying me. "Can I see it?" he asked suddenly. "Your tiny house?" Amy's curious too, but she didn't want to impose after everything. I hesitated, then nodded. "Sure, not today, but maybe next weekend. That would be great," he said, visibly relieved. "And Jody, I'm proud of you. For standing up to them, for standing up to all of us. It was long overdue. We parted on better terms than Wed had in years, perhaps ever." As I drove home, I realized Logan and I had always been pawns in our parents' dysfunctional system. He as the golden child, me as the scapegoat. Neither role had served us well. The following weekend, Logan visited my tiny home without Amy or Tyler, explaining that he wanted this first visit to be just between siblings. He seemed genuinely impressed with the space, asking thoughtful questions about the design and storage solutions. "It suits you," he observed as he prepared to leave. "It's efficient and smart, just like you." "Thanks," I said, surprised by how much his approval meant after years of dismissal. "Mom asked about you yesterday," he mentioned casually. "First time she's brought you up since." "Everything. What did she say?" "Just asked if I'd heard from you." I told her Wed gotten coffee. She didn't say much, but I could tell she was listening. "They could call me themselves," I pointed out. "They could," he agreed, "but they'd have to admit they were wrong first, and that's not exactly their strong suit." We both laughed at that truth. "I've been thinking about starting therapy," he confided as he stood on my small porch, "to work through some of this family stuff. The favoritism affected me too, just differently." "That's a good idea," I told him. "I've been considering it myself. Maybe someday we could do a session together," he suggested tentatively. "Really clear the air about everything? Maybe?" I agreed, not committing but not dismissing the idea either. As weeks turned into months, my tiny home life developed a comfortable rhythm. I found joy in simple pleasures, morning coffee on my small deck, evenings reading in my loft, weekends tending my portion of the community garden. My savings, freed from the burden of furnishing and maintaining a larger house, allowed me occasional luxuries and travel I'd previously denied myself. The rental income from my house provided financial security, and Sarah and Mark proved to be ideal tenants, sending occasional pictures of improvements they'd made with my permission. Logan and I established a cautious new relationship, meeting for coffee or lunch every few weeks without our parents' involvement. He shared updates about Tyler and the pregnancy, and I found I could genuinely celebrate his family's milestones, now that they weren't somehow presented as superior to my achievements. 3 months after moving into my tiny home, I began seeing a therapist specializing in family dynamics. Dr. Winters helped me identify and begin to heal the wounds of being the family scapegoat, teaching me to recognize when guilt was appropriate and when it was simply programmed manipulation. Your housing choice was symbolic, she observed during one session. You literally made yourself too small to accommodate their demands. Yet in doing so, you've created more space for yourself emotionally. I'd never thought of it that way, but she was right. My tiny home had become both physical boundary and metaphor. It defined my space clearly, making it impossible for my family to claim it for themselves. One evening in mid-October, as I was enjoying the fall colors from my deck, I received a text that made my heart skip. "This is Mom. Dad and I would like to come see you. Is that possible?" I stared at my phone for a long time before responding. "When did you have in mind?" We arranged for them to visit that weekend. I cleaned my already tidy home obsessively, then berated myself for still seeking their approval. "Doctor," Winter's voice echoed in my mind, "you can welcome them without needing their validation. Your home is valid whether they approve or not." When their SUV pulled up outside my tiny home, I felt a complex mix of anxiety and determination. This was my territory now. I would be hospitable but firm. My mother looked older somehow as she approached, my father a half step behind her. Both wore expressions I couldn't quite read. Not quite apologetic, not quite hostile, somewhere in between. "Welcome," I said simply, standing in my doorway. "Thank you for seeing us," my mother replied stiffly. I invited them in, watching as they took in the space that was so different from the house they'd tried to claim. My father had to duck slightly under the sleeping loft, and both seemed unsure where to sit in the compact living area. "It's cozy," my mother offered, which from her was practically a compliment. "Would you like some tea?" I offered, falling back on hospitality to ease the tension. As I prepared the tea in my efficient kitchen, my father cleared his throat. "Logan says you're doing well here." "I am," I confirmed. "It suits me. We've been doing some thinking," my mother began as I handed her a cup. "About everything that happened." I sat down across from them, waiting. "We still think you overreacted," my father stated bluntly, "but perhaps we should have approached the situation differently." It wasn't quite an apology, but from my father it was significant. "I didn't overreact," I replied calmly. "I protected what was mine after years of giving way, but I appreciate you acknowledging you could have approached it differently." My mother's lips tightened, but she nodded slightly. "We've always wanted what's best for both our children." "What you thought was best," I corrected, without asking what we thought was best for ourselves. "Were your parents?" my father began, but stopped himself. "But yes, we could have listened more." We talked for nearly an hour, circling issues but never quite addressing them directly. It wasn't the dramatic reconciliation or heartfelt apology I might once have hoped for, but it was a beginning, a acknowledgement, however reluctant, that something in our family dynamic needed to change. As they prepared to leave, my mother paused in the doorway. "Logan says you're still keeping the other house? The one you bought first?" "Yes," I confirmed, instantly alert for any hint of renewed entitlement. "I have good tenants. It's a solid investment." She nodded. "That's smart. You always were good with planning ahead." It was perhaps the first straightforward compliment she'd given me in years, and I accepted it with a simple thank you. After they left, I sat on my deck watching the sunset, reflecting on how far I'd come in just a few months. My tiny home hadn't just changed my living situation, it had transformed my sense of self. In these 400 square feet, I'd found a strength and certainty I never knew I possessed. Sometimes, I murmured to myself, watching the sky shift from orange to purple. The smallest spaces hold the biggest growth. As fall turned to winter, my tiny home proved its worth in unexpected ways. The efficient heating system kept it cozy despite the dropping temperatures, and the minimal space meant less cleaning and maintenance during the busy holiday season. I decorated with a small tree and simple white lights, finding joy in the restrained elegance that suited my new lifestyle. The holidays loomed with their inherent family expectations. Logan had invited me to spend Thanksgiving with his family, carefully noting that our parents would not be there. I accepted, bringing a homemade pie and feeling genuinely happy to play aunt to Tyler, whose excitement about the coming baby was infectious. "Uncle Logan says you live in a dollhouse," he informed me solemnly as I helped him build a fort from sofa cushions. "It's called a tiny house," I corrected him with a smile. "But I suppose it is about the size of a very large dollhouse. Can I see it someday?" "Of course you can," I promised, touched by his interest. Christmas presented more complicated dynamics. After much deliberation and consultation with Dr. Winters, I decided to attend my parents' traditional Christmas Eve dinner. Our relationship remained fragile, with surface politeness masking deeper, unresolved issues, but complete estrangement felt unnecessarily punitive to all involved. The dinner was awkward but civil, with conversation carefully steered towards safe topics. My mother had placed me at the opposite end of the table from Logan, an old pattern that now seemed glaringly obvious. I caught Logan's eye at one point, and his slight eye roll of recognition made me feel less alone in noticing these dynamics. As winter melted into early spring, my tiny home community flourished. We planned a communal garden expansion, and I found myself volunteering to coordinate, discovering leadership skills that had always been overshadowed in my family setting. My neighbors elected me to the community council, valuing my organizational abilities and diplomatic approach to resolving the inevitable conflicts of shared living. At work, I received an unexpected promotion to senior administrator, with a substantial salary increase that further validated my growing confidence. My boss cited my increased assertiveness and clear boundary setting as key factors in the decision. "You're not taking on everyone else's problems anymore," she noted. "It's made you more effective at solving the ones that actually matter." My relationship with Logan continued to strengthen, evolving into something more like true siblinghood than the competitive dynamic our parents had fostered. He called regularly for advice or just to chat, and I found myself genuinely interested in his life rather than resentful of the attention it received. In early March, Amy gave birth to a healthy baby girl they named Lily. I visited them in the hospital, bringing a small handmade quilt I'd crafted during winter evenings in my loft. "It's beautiful," Amy said, touching the intricate pattern. "Did you make this?" "I've taken up quilting," I explained. "It's perfect for my space, creative but compact." Logan watched me hold Lily with a thoughtful expression. "You know, Mom always said you weren't interested in family stuff. But that wasn't true, was it? You just weren't included the same way I was." His insight startled me. No, I wasn't, but that's changing now. As spring fully arrived, bringing new growth to the community garden, I received an unexpected text from my mother. "Your father and I would like to visit again if that's all right. There are things we need to discuss." The message sent a familiar anxiety through me, but I was stronger now. "Sunday afternoon would work," I replied, setting a clear 2-hour window for the visit. They arrived precisely on time, my mother carrying a small potted plant as a hostess gift, a peace offering of sorts. After the requisite small talk and tea preparation, my father cleared his throat. "Logan tells us you've been promoted." "Congratulations." "Thank you," I replied, surprised by the acknowledgement. "We've been doing some thinking," my mother began, echoing her words from their previous visit. "About our family. About how we've treated you compared to Logan." I waited, not wanting to make this easier for them. "Your father and I come from different backgrounds," she continued. "In my family, boys were prioritized. It was just how things were done. When we had you and then Logan, I suppose I carried those patterns forward without really examining them. It was more insight than I'd expected from her, and I nodded encouragingly. "That doesn't make it right," my father added, surprising me further. "We favored Logan. We can see that now." "What brought on this realization?" I asked cautiously. My mother looked uncomfortable. "Logan's been quite direct with us recently. He showed us some journal entries Amy had written about how our behavior affected family gatherings, how uncomfortable it made her to see how we treated you differently. That explained it. They were being confronted by someone other than me, someone whose opinion they valued." I've been keeping my own journal, I said suddenly, making a decision. Since I was 15. My mother looked startled. You have? I went to my carefully organized storage bench and extracted a leather-bound journal, one of several I'd accumulated over the years. I'd brought them to the tiny home during one of my therapy sessions, Dr. Winters having suggested I might want to reference them during our work together. I'd like to read you some entries, I said, returning to my seat. If you're really interested in understanding my experience in our family. My father shifted uncomfortably but nodded. My mother's hands tightened around her teacup. October 12th, 2007. I read. Mom and Dad missed my Honor Society induction tonight because Logan had a baseball game. It was an away game, so they had to drive 2 hours to see him play 3 innings before getting pulled. Principal Jackson asked where my parents were during the reception. I said they had a prior commitment. He looked sad for me. I didn't cry until I got home. I turned several pages. June 3rd, 2008, graduation day. Mom spent the morning steaming Logan's band uniform for the ceremony. When I asked if she could help me with my hair for graduation, she said she didn't have time. Dad took 30 pictures of Logan playing in the band and 3 of me getting my diploma. My mother's face had paled, but I continued. March 22nd, 2014. Told Mom and Dad about my promotion at the hospital. Mom asked if Logan had called with his news yet. When I said no, she said I should wait to tell them my news until after he called, because he'd gotten a call back for a second interview at the firm, and they didn't want my news to overshadow his potential news. I waited. Logan never called. I never told them about the promotion. My father cleared his throat. Jody, we didn't realize December 25th, 2016, I continued, turning to another marked page. Christmas. Logan got a new car with a big red bow in the driveway. I got a sweater and a gift card. When I mentioned later that my car was having transmission problems, Dad said I should have taken better care of it and that money was tight because of Logan's new car. My car broke down 3 weeks later. I took the bus to work for 2 months while saving for repairs. I closed the journal and looked at my parents directly. I have dozens of these journals, hundreds of entries. This isn't about one incident or even a handful. It's been my entire life. My mother was openly crying now, silent tears tracking down her cheeks. My father looked stunned, as if someone had struck him. Why didn't you ever say anything? He finally asked. I did, I replied calmly. Many times. You either dismissed my feelings or made me feel selfish for having them. Eventually, I stopped trying. We never meant to hurt you, my mother whispered. I believe that, I acknowledged. But intent doesn't erase impact. You may not have meant to hurt me, but you did. Repeatedly. Systematically. For decades. And then we tried to take your house, my father said quietly, the full weight of that action finally seeming to register. Yes. The house I saved for over 6 years to buy. The achievement I was finally proud of, that was just for me. And your instinct was to take it from me and give it to Logan. My mother wiped her eyes. I don't know what to say except I'm sorry. Truly sorry, Jody. We failed you as parents. It was the apology I'd been waiting for my entire adult life, yet now that I had it, I realized it couldn't undo the past. It couldn't give me back the support and recognition I'd missed. But perhaps it could give us all a chance at a different future. Thank you for acknowledging that, I said. It means a lot to hear you say it. Can you forgive us? My father asked, his voice uncharacteristically vulnerable. I considered the question carefully. Forgiveness isn't a single moment, I finally replied. It's a process. I'm working on it. But more important than forgiveness is change. Real, consistent change in how we relate to each other. We want that, my mother said earnestly. We want a relationship with you, Jody. Then we'll need to build a new one, I told them. One based on mutual respect and equality. I can't go back to being the less important child. You never should have been, my father admitted. We talked for another hour, longer than I'd planned to allow. It wasn't a miraculous transformation. Decades of patterns don't disappear in an afternoon. But it was the most honest conversation we'd ever had. My mother asked thoughtful questions about my promotion and tiny home choices. My father acknowledged specific moments when he'd prioritized Logan unfairly. When they finally left, the air felt lighter somehow, as if the truth however painful, had cleared something that had been stagnant for too long. I wasn't naive enough to think everything was resolved, but a door had been opened that had previously been locked tight. That evening, I sat on my deck watching the community garden where my herbs were beginning to sprout. My phone buzzed with a text from Logan. "How did it go with Mom and Dad?" "Better than expected," I replied honestly. "We still have a long way to go, but they actually listened for once. Small miracles." He texted back, "Proud of you, sis." As the sun set over my tiny home community, I felt a sense of peace I'd never experienced in my parents' house or even in the house I'd bought. Here, in this small space I'd claimed for myself, I'd found room to grow into the person I was meant to be. The journals I'd shared with my parents remained out on my table, tangible evidence of a past I was no longer willing to bury or deny. Tomorrow I would return them to their shelf, but their contents had finally been heard. My truth had been spoken, and in that truth, painful as it was, lay the seeds of whatever healing might be possible. 6 months passed, bringing summer's heat and abundance to the tiny home community. My container garden flourished on the deck, providing fresh herbs and cherry tomatoes for my meals. Inside, my small space had evolved to reflect my growing confidence, less apologetic minimalism, more intentional curation of things that brought me joy. My relationship with my parents progressed in fits and starts. Some weeks brought thoughtful texts and genuine interest in my life. Others featured old patterns sneaking back into our interactions. The difference now was that I called out these patterns when I noticed them, sometimes receiving defensive responses, but increasingly met with acknowledgement and course correction. Logan and Amy had settled well into parenthood with 2 children, finding their own path that increasingly diverged from our parents' expectations. Logan had switched jobs to a position with less prestige but better work-life balance, a decision our father struggled to accept but eventually respected. "Remember when we couldn't make a single decision without wondering what Mom and Dad would think?" Logan mused during one of our now regular lunch dates. "Now look at us. Tiny houses and career changes. Rebellion comes in many forms." I laughed. My rental property continued to thrive under Sarah and Mark's tenancy. When their lease approached renewal, they asked about extending for another year with a slight rent increase to account for some upgrades they wanted to make to the backyard. Actually, I told them during a video call to discuss the renewal, "I've been thinking about something different." Their faces fell, clearly assuming I was planning to sell or move back in. "What would you think about a rent-to-own arrangement?" I suggested. "You clearly love the house, and I've been impressed with how you've cared for it." Their shock quickly turned to excitement as I outlined my proposal. A portion of their rent would go toward building equity, with an option to purchase outright after 3 years. As a nurse and teacher, they'd been struggling to save for a down payment while paying rent, and this arrangement would give them a path to ownership they couldn't otherwise access. "Why would you do this for us?" Sarah asked, visibly emotional. "Because everyone deserves a chance to have a home that's truly theirs," I replied, thinking of my own journey. "And this way, the house goes to people who genuinely appreciate it." The paperwork was arranged through my real estate agent, who praised the creativity of the arrangement. "This is a win-win situation," she noted. "They get a path to ownership, and you get reliable tenants with a vested interest in maintaining the property, plus a nice return on your investment." On a warm Saturday in early July, I received an unexpected text from my father. "Your mother and I would like to host a family gathering next weekend. Your tiny home has inspired us to downsize. We've purchased a smaller house and would like to show everyone before we move in next month." I read the message several times, looking for hidden meaning or manipulation but finding none. My parents? Downsizing? The concept was so foreign I could hardly imagine it. "I'd love to come," I replied simply. The following weekend, I drove to an address in a neighborhood I didn't recognize. A modest subdivision of small ranches and bungalows, nothing like the sprawling 2-story home where I'd grown up. I pulled up to a neat single-level house with a manageable yard and accessible features that would serve my aging parents well. My mother greeted me at the door with an enthusiasm I hadn't seen in years. Come in, come in. You're the first to arrive." The house was charming and practical. 3 bedrooms instead of 5, an open floor plan, and notably, no grand spaces designed to impress. As she showed me around, my mother explained their reasoning. "After seeing how content you are in your tiny home, We started questioning why we needed so much space. The maintenance was becoming a burden, and honestly, we were rattling around in that big house since you kids left. It's a lovely home, I told her sincerely. Very warm and welcoming. We've decided to set up one bedroom as a guest room, she continued, showing me a pleasant space with neutral decor, and the other as a play area for the grandchildren. She hesitated before adding, "We hope you'll visit often, even if you don't need to stay overnight given how close you are." The inclusion, so explicitly stated, moved me unexpectedly. I'd like that. I managed. Logan and his family arrived soon after, Tyler immediately claiming the playroom while baby Lily toddled unsteadily after him. As we gathered for the lunch my mother had prepared, I noticed something different about the dining setup. A round table instead of the rectangular one that had physically reinforced our family hierarchy for decades. "No head of the table this way," my father commented, noting my observation. "Everyone has the same position." It was a small thing, perhaps, but deeply symbolic. Throughout the meal, I noticed other subtle but significant changes in my parents' behavior. My mother asked about my work before Logan's. My father solicited my opinion on his retirement investment strategy, acknowledging my financial acumen. After lunch, as Amy helped my mother with dessert and the children played in the yard under Logan's supervision, my father invited me to join him on the front porch swing. "Your tiny house purchase was quite the catalyst," he said after Wed swung in comfortable silence for a few moments. "How so?" "It forced us to really see you," he admitted. "Not as an extension of us or in relation to Logan, but as your own person making your own choices. Choices we wouldn't have made, but that were right for you. That's all I ever wanted," I told him. "To be seen for myself. I know that now." He nodded. "Too late in many ways, but hopefully not too late to build something new." "It's never too late for that," I assured him, surprised by how much I meant it. Later, as the gathering wound down, my mother pulled me aside with an unexpected question. "That arrangement you made with your tenants, the rent-to-own plan. Logan mentioned it. It's quite generous. It seemed like the right thing to do," I replied, wondering where she was going with this. "Your father and I have been discussing our estate planning," she continued. "We've always assumed we'd leave the house to both of you, but with us downsizing and you having your own places." She hesitated. "We want to be fair this time. Mom, you don't need to." "Yes, we do," she interrupted firmly. "We've updated our will. Logan will receive the new house when we're gone, and you'll receive financial assets of equal value. We've been very specific about ensuring the division is truly equal." I was touched not by the inheritance itself, but by the explicit acknowledgement of past inequity and the effort to correct it. "Thank you," I said simply. "We can't undo the past," she acknowledged, echoing my thoughts. "But we can try to do better now." As summer turned to fall, I celebrated 1 year in my tiny home with a gathering that would have been impossible in my previous life. My parents and Logan's family, Taylor and her new boyfriend, neighbors from the tiny home community, colleagues from the hospital, and Sarah and Mark with their daughter. We spilled out from my small home onto the community patio, everyone bringing dishes to share. My mother, who once would have criticized the informality, seemed genuinely charmed by the festive atmosphere. My father engaged in lengthy conversation with my neighbor Elaine about container gardening. Logan and Amy moved comfortably among my friends, no longer separated into family versus non-family groups. As evening fell and solar lights illuminated the garden, Taylor raised her glass in an impromptu toast. "To Jody," she declared, "who taught us all that standing your ground doesn't mean standing still." The words resonated deeply as I looked around at the gathered faces. Family by birth and family by choice, all present in my life because I'd finally claimed the space that was rightfully mine. Later, as guests began to depart, my father paused by my side, watching as my mother helped Tyler plant a small flowering bush at the edge of my garden space, a housewarming gift they'd brought. "You know," he said quietly, "we always worried about you being alone. That's partly why we pushed Logan's needs. He had a family, and we thought you needed us to create one for you." "I was never alone," I told him, gesturing to the diverse group of people still mingling in the twilight. "I just needed the space to build my own connections. My own life." "I see that now," he nodded. "Your house, both houses, actually, they weren't just about property." "No," I agreed. They were about claiming what was mine, setting boundaries, building a life that fits me, rather than squeezing into someone else's expectations. My original house was now on its way to becoming Sarah and Mark's home, a transition that felt perfectly right. My tiny home had evolved from an act of rebellion into a genuine expression of my values, and my place in my family, while still a work in progress, had fundamentally shifted from afterthought to equal member. As the last guests departed and I tidied my compact kitchen, I reflected on the journey of the past year. From the shocking phone call demanding my house for Logan to this moment of hard-won peace, every step had been necessary. The confrontation, painful as it was, had forced long overdue truths into the light. The boundaries I'd established had created space for authentic relationships to form. I stepped out onto my deck, looking up at the stars visible in the clear fall sky. My home was tiny, but my life had expanded in ways I never could have imagined. In standing firm against my family's demands, I hadn't lost them as Id feared. Id created the possibility of a healthier relationship than Wed ever had before. Sometimes the smallest homes contain the biggest revelations. Sometimes the firmest boundaries create the most genuine connections. And sometimes, claiming the space that is rightfully yours allows everyone to find their proper place in your life. I wondered how many others out there were struggling with family expectations and unequal treatment. How many were sacrificing their own dreams to accommodate others' demands? How many needed permission to claim their own space, literal or figurative? If you're watching this and my story resonates with you, remember that setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's necessary for genuine relationships. Standing firm in your worth doesn't mean losing your family. It might be the only way to build a healthy one. Thank you for listening to my journey. If this story touched you, please like this video and subscribe for more stories of transformation and growth. Share with someone who might need permission to claim their own space in life. And comment below. Have you ever had to set a difficult boundary with family? How did it change your relationships? Wishing you the courage to claim what's yours and the wisdom to know when to stand firm. Until next time, remember that your life, like my tiny home, should be designed to fit you, not the other way around.